Rob, hold on. No, wait. Some of this stuff looks really good. I can't just it doesn't just look really good. It's inexplicable logically. It's literally beyond logic and reason. There's no possible way that this could exist in the time period that it did without some form of revelation. That much is literally indisputable. And I will give you evidence for that if you want to dispute that.
Could you have that same attitude for Book of Mormon anachronisms? It's impossible.
Okay, yeah, sure. There's been like 180 anachronisms claimed about the Book of Mormon, and yet 150 of them we've thrown out the window with evidence. It's just a matter of time, Rob. We've only discovered like a fraction of this land.
It was unfair to throw any of those out the window. You know why? Because you don't even know where it happened.
That's not true. It happened on this continent.
Where did it happen?
This continent. Where's the Book of Mormon? Where are the golden plates discovered? This continent. That's where.
But here's my point.
This is your point. I just told you where it happened.
If we were in a court of law and I said my opponent is trying to cross off anachronisms because he found something down in Argentina from 10,000 years ago and something from Alaska 400 years ago, and when I ask him where did it happen, he says, well, the continent. Joseph told us where it happened. Joseph told us about walking across the plains of the Lamanites.
Mm-hmm.
That's North America.
Yeah, no, they did trek. They trekked to North America. This is described in the Book of Mormon.
Okay.
Rob, we found... Dude, explain the Temple of the Descending God in Guatemala. Are you aware of that?
Right after you explain Deutero-Isaiah in the Book of Mormon.
What's the issue with it? I understand you're saying the time periods are off. Dude,
Deutero-Isaiah could not have been on the brass plate.
Okay, sure. If you want to go band for band on evidence, let me read Moses 6:31 next to 3rd Enoch. Do you want to do that?
Joseph would have had access to Enoch.
Brother.
Oh my God, Rob.
Yep.
This was discovered in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Are you trolling me?
No. Yeah, the Dead Sea Scrolls talks about it, but there are other.
Rob. This phrase is not in any of the books of Enoch. This is the only mentioning of this is in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Here's my point, guys.
And Joseph Smith included it in Moses chapter 6. Explain that. Explain it.
Guys, here's what I can explain.
I'm not letting you off until you explain how did he know something that wasn't discovered until 100 years later after he died. How?
I don't know, and that's why I said
when you can give me a logical reason for that, I will leave Mormonism. I'm not even kidding. That's not explicable.
But are you gonna base your life on one thing that's inexplicable that looks really, really good, when there are tons of things in Mormonisms that can be explained and they look really, really, really bad?
Rob, all of this apologetics that you've done, you've been given answers that even if you don't like the answers, they suffice the issue. Even if you don't like them, they suffice. They're suffice.
Okay.
However, this isn't just one thing, dude. How did Joseph Smith know which characters to leave out of the Book of Mormon to corroborate Hebrew being translated to English? How did he know?
Joseph didn't translate anything. He dictated from.
That's okay. That's fine. You can state that. But sure, he put his head in the hat and he did this. How do you justify that when there's nothing in there that would? This is a book with 260,000 words.
Hebrewisms, chiasmus exists in the Doctrine and Covenants and in Dr. Seuss books. That does not make them ancient records.
Rob, I want you to give... Okay, sure, you can say Dr. Seuss books. Cool. First of all, Joseph Smith dictated the Book of Mormon in 65 working days, 90 total days. The book has 200... Sorry?
Not true.
Proof, evidence, go.
He started talking about the book and formulating ideas 4 years prior.
Are you talking about the quote from his mom where he talked about the people in the land?
No. I'm just saying he announced there was a record. He announced there was a record in a hill and he was talking to Moroni. What I'm saying is that's 4 years prior. When he's finally...
Yeah, Moroni came to him, and it says in the first vision, not in the first vision accounts, forgive me, the records on his visions with Moroni, he was talking about how he was being shown in detail
Nahum has not been discovered. The NHM on that altar.
Yes, it has.
That's not Nahum. NHM stands for a tribe, not a burial ground. It wasn't a burial ground where they found NHM. It's not a burial ground.
Rob, it wasn't described that. It wasn't described that way. It was described as a town in which they were able to bury him.
Okay, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna give you on that. You're right.
No, but that doesn't even answer the question. There's 3 pieces of evidence that we find over there. Sure, you can claim. Okay, so you can claim that we had a map for the Arabian Peninsula in this modern day. There's no evidence that he was looking at it when orating the Book of Mormon, number 1. And now you can say, okay, well, everyone around him was in on it. Fine. Okay, fine. Nahum, or Nahem, whatever you want to call it, was discovered in like the 1970s or 80s by a group of like German secular archaeologists. Now, the Frankincense Trail is directly up, northwest, barely to the west, going up until you reach Jerusalem. You come down that section, you find the valleys, you find the stream, you find everything explained, and you even find like the freaking wildlife in the type of oak trees that were described in the Book of Mormon. Sure, you can claim Joseph Smith had a book that explained all that stuff. That's fine. There's no evidence for that, but I'll go to the next point either way. How do you explain Land Bountiful, modern day Oman in Yemen, where there was it was undiscovered until later in the 18th century?
You can't prove that that's where Nephi built a ship. You don't know that.
Yes, I can, because the wood is only grown in that specific location. And then second, there's everything that's described in the Book of Mormon, the fruit, the honey, the ore, the cliffs, the seaside, everything that's described that would have been necessary to have modern day Bountiful in the Book of Mormon is there. And it fits the description of them leaving this area, coming to this area.
There's no fingerprints or footprints from a dude named Nephi. You can't prove that.
Rob, come on.
You can't prove he was ever there. You can't even prove a guy named Nephi.
Are we serious right now?
What I see is the difference between you and me is that you find something which I will grant looks amazing, and you say, wow, that's unexplainable. I'm going to hang my testimony and my devotion on that. And I look at the preponderance of evidence against all things Joseph Smith, whether it's Book of Abraham, polyandry, Book of Mormon.
Okay, so first of all, polyandry isn't even
Covenants.
evidence against Book of Mormon or against Joseph Smith. It's just stating that he did something bad. Okay, and
But
Rob, I want you to explain this then.
It
I
is
want you to explain this.
refreshing.
In Moses 6:34, behold, my spirit is upon you. Wherefore, all thy words will I justify. In the mountains shall flee before you. In the rivers shall turn from their course. Arise, take, and that's from Moses 6:34. In Medean Enoch, discovered in the Dead Sea Scrolls, not in the Book of Enoch that you can get in your Ethiopian Bible. Dead Sea Scrolls. The Supreme Life replied, arise, take thy way to the source of the waters. Turn it from its course. At this command Tavril, indeed turn the pure water from its course. That's not found anywhere in the Bible. It's not found anywhere in the Apocryphals. How did he know? How did he know to attribute this story to Enoch?
And how did he know, or how didn't he know, that amongst those Dead Sea Scrolls, we would find the great Isaiah scroll, which compared to Joseph Smith's inspired translation.
Okay, so you're just neglecting, you're just saying, I don't want to listen to your evidence, Alex. That's what you're telling me.
I'm saying the evidence you gave me is really good. Hold on to that. But don't neglect all the evidence debunking Joseph Smith.
Really good. Okay, Rob. Sure, let's just go to the next. There's a strange thing in the wild. A wild man hath come among us. The wild man, they call me. From the Book of Giants, once again, found in the Apocryphal writings in the Dead Sea Scrolls. You're just ignoring the evidence, Rob.
Let me just do this. You win on that point. Joseph is right. It's amazing. It's evidence.
No, dude.
Now it's my turn. My turn. DNC 111. Joseph prophesied that he would go to Massachusetts, find treasure, and have power to pay his debts. Joseph never paid the debts. God became a liar. Joseph.
What do you know about conditional prophecy? What do you know about conditional prophecy?
That's not a conditional prophecy.
I'm asking you, what do you know about it?
It's an apologetic to try to make sense of when prophecies fail, because Joseph had a lot of failed prophecies.
Sure. So okay, fine. So whenever Nineveh was threatened to be destroyed, it wasn't said Nineveh will be destroyed if this does not happen. It says Nineveh will be destroyed. and then Nineveh repent. What? Pause. And then Nineveh repents, and then Jonah gets mad at God in chapter 4 because he lied to him, is what he says.
Okay, I beg you, sir, do some critical Bible scholarship and learn the difference between history and etiological myth stories.
I'm aware. Sure, Jonah and Job and Ezra. I get it.
Noah, Adam, Eve. These were not real people. These were
That's
made
not
up
my
stories.
point. My point is when God is okay, that's fine. They're not real people, but it's a story of God's interactions with people. No, even if they're not real people.
You're assuming that the Jonah and the whale Nineveh story actually was historical.
No, I'm not. I'm using it as it's intended to teach a lesson. And also,
but it's a fictional
point?
Story.
I don't care. I don't give a damn. It teaches a lesson. Same as the guy in the river.
Is there evidence to they're not real people from your perspective?
Yes. Go read the book, The History of the Bible by John Barton. And people who love the Bible, they say...
That's not what I asked you.
Oh, yeah.
I asked you make a claim that this report didn't exist.
I firmly believe that had Joseph Smith said the Book of Mormon took place in Cambodia, LDS scholars and apologists would be doing just as good a job finding parallels in those ancient temples to say, yep, this is where the Nephites live.
Rob, yeah, okay, fine. I have one task for you to find. I have one task for you to find to corroborate that piece of that what you just said. Find me one archaeological site that states NHM in Hebrew letters on it. Where?
I've not done archaeology. I haven't found any sites at all.
Yeah, that's the thing. No one has. The tribe of Nahum exists in one location. And Joseph Smith was just really lucky when he guessed where it was, I guess.
Well, Joseph claimed the Book of Mormon was Reformed Egyptian, so I don't even know why we're talking about Hebrew words here. But here's my point.
Dude,
when I was
are you serious? Because we're talking about Lehi and Nephi, who were in Jerusalem. So yes, their genealogy would have been in Reformed Egyptian, but they likely would have spoken Hebrew because they lived in Jerusalem. Are you serious?
Can I ask you a question? Are you serious? Do you think that a Nephite and Lamanite civilization could run for 1,000 years, and the prophets could keep alive fluency in a language that nobody is speaking for 1,000 years? They could keep it together.
What are you talking
seriously
about?
Believe that? Well, I mean, Nephites and Lamanites, what language are they speaking?
Some kind of warped Egyptian, likely. With it says the teaching of the Jews with the language of the Egyptians.
Okay, well, that's imaginary. That doesn't actually exist. But my point is...
That's not even true. There's evidence of... Reformed Egyptian is not a language. That's not a language. Reformed Egyptian is just Egyptian that was warped. Have you ever looked at, like, Old English, Rob?
Yeah.
Okay, look at Old English 500 years ago and look at English today.
Very different.
Very different. When time goes on and people talk, dude, language from 15 years ago versus today sounds different. So yes, Egyptian being spoken would have changed the same as English would have.
Here's the point, though. The Book of Mormon claims to have a literate people with a written language, and there's nothing in North or South or Central America of a written language.
Just not
and had
true.
they had
that's
one,
literally not true.
Had they had a written language, we would see it on cave walls, pot shards, burial sites. There's nothing. Mayan is not a written language.
Yeah, are you sure?
Mayan is not a written language.
Okay.
And we know the Mayans were not.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the same thing critics used to say about, people don't write on metal. People don't write on that. Okay, they actually do. What are they writing in, Rob?
Who?
Whoever lived in the Americas before us, before we came here.
That's my point.
What were they writing on?
They weren't writing. They don't have
that
a
is
language.
Literally so demonstrably not true. We have hieroglyphs.
From who?
From whoever lived here before us. If it's not the Nephites and Lamanites or the Jaredites, you tell me who.
Show me one written language from ancient Native Americans.
A hieroglyph.
One thing.
Explain the hieroglyphs that we've discovered here.
Where?
Are you denying that? Okay, I will show you, but are you denying that hieroglyphs existed before the 1500s in America?
I am aware that Mayans and dudes like them they chiseled like little animals and stuff on rocks and steles and stuff, but not a language that would have been spoken.
Define language.
Well, like there's a difference between a symbol of like, say, a heart or a cross versus letters that generate sounds with our mouth, like ch, ch, or m, that's different.
Okay,
and that's what the Book of Mormon proposes to have.
So when you look at Japanese, is it a language to you or is it an art?
I don't know Japanese. I'm sorry, I can't really.
Okay, so know. You would call it just an art, right? Stop playing around, Rob. Come back to church. Goodness.
Okay, can I have a turn to give you a challenge and let you refute it?
Yeah, after you answer my question.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, how did Joseph Smith identify over 12 different things that are never identified in any apocryphal text or in the Bible that were discovered 100 years later and corroborated perfectly by the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Okay, I have an answer for that. The Adam Clarke Bible Commentary, which we see appearing in his JST-inspired translation of the Bible, and we see Adam Clarke Commentary in the Book of Mormon.
You did not even address one molecule of what I just said.
Well, we know. Okay, let me try again. Yes. Joseph was a student. He had Jewish teachers. He wanted to study Greek and Hebrew and all the stuff.
Yeah, after the Book of Mormon is already put out, that's true. I'm just telling you. You've already told me that you intentionally took out a piece of context, so now that you're doing that, I'm going to put it back in for the audience.
Okay, was your question only in relationship to the Book of Mormon?
It's actually about the Book of Moses, but yes, Book of Moses. I'm looking for an answer to that.
Okay, when Joseph Smith was producing the Book of Moses, was he not working with Sidney Rigdon?
Was he working with Sidney Rigdon?
I mean, Sidney Rigdon was in his life at that time, am I right?
Yes.
This guy, I mean, he is a Christian pastor with education and a library. And later we will see some of the books in Joseph Smith's library when he donates them to the Nauvoo library or whatever it was. Yeah,
so this is still a non-answer because, again, the Dead Sea Scrolls weren't discovered, so they couldn't have been in Sidney Rigdon's library.
Guys, if you're going to say, hey, look at this thing we found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, how could Joseph have known? Then you need to look at the rest of the stuff in the Dead Sea Scrolls and say, how did Joseph get it so wrong in the Isaiah chapter?
Such as?
The Isaiah chapters. Please, do me a favor.
Okay. So the Septuagint that we have today, how much of Isaiah, the Great Scroll of Isaiah and the Dead Sea Scrolls, how much of that is corroborated by Isaiah from the Septuagint? Do you know what percentage?
I don't know.
High percentage. It's like very few things are wrong in it.
Okay.
Isaiah from the Dead Sea Scrolls corroborated Septuagint Isaiah. So I don't know what you're saying. What do you mean he got wrong in Isaiah? What did he get wrong?
Colby Townsend just did a presentation where he lined up side by side the Great Isaiah Scroll, Book of Mormon, Joseph Smith's inspired translation of the Isaiah, and the Adam Clarke Bible Commentary. And then you can see which ones most align. And you can see that what he presents aligns with Adam Clarke and KJV, not Great Isaiah
Scroll. Doesn't matter. Why does this matter?
Isaiah presentation that he did with John.
Where did Joseph Smith claim that he restored Isaiah?
That's what the whole inspired translation of the Bible was, to restore the plain and precious truths. And yet when he did it,
he make to Isaiah?
All kinds of. He even wrote himself into Isaiah.
Where?
Like he did in Genesis. Like he wrote himself into Genesis 50. I mean,
where?
Joseph's. I don't know. It's so hard for me to remember chapter and verse when I'm just here in my car on my phone here.
You're good, but also
I'd like to give you an opportunity to be on the defense for give me a break here. Can we do that?
Look, Rob, this isn't about defense. It's not even. Look, I'm coming at this with an honest point of view. If I didn't think Mormonism was logical, I wouldn't be Mormon, and I hope that you believe that when I say that.
But here's
when
my point.
I look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, when I look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I see that, I believe from the Masoretic it's like 80, but from the Septuagint it's like 95, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's like 95% from the Great Scroll of Isaiah. And I look inside of the Dead Sea Scrolls and I look inside of the Book of Moses. And I see that names and references to stories and like characters that aren't introduced in the Bible or in the in the Apocrypha, and all of that stuff is described in the Book of Moses, but not anywhere else in any former scripture. And then it's discovered 100 years later in the Dead Sea Scrolls, where Joseph Smith literally could not have known it. It didn't exist. How did this completely corroborate his story about the Book of Moses? And why don't more people know about this? Did you know about these?
I did during my deconstruction phase. These were the things that I held on with for dear life. Like, hey, maybe there's still something here that I can hold on to salvage my testimony.
I'm guessing whenever your shelf broke, it's because you found a reason that these could be here.
The preponderance of evidence in each category stacked up against Joseph's claims. That's why my shelf broke. And I would like to ask you, how much weight are you attributing to the Book of Moses compared to the anachronisms which have yet to be debunked in the Book of Mormon?
Which one of the 30 are you referring to?
How about this?
Horses, swords?
No,
which one are you talking about?
How about title pages?
What about
and laying down heads?
What about them?
Joseph claimed that the title page of the Book of Mormon was a, quote, word-for-word translation written by Moroni himself.
Okay.
Title pages didn't exist back then. They started in the 1400s.
You just said language didn't exist back then. What do you mean?
The concept of a title page.
Oh my gosh! Wait, the concept of a title page couldn't have existed if language didn't exist. So, which one's the anachronism? The language in general, or the title page?
The Book of Mormon's title page is an anachronism because not only did the Nephites, because
you just said language didn't exist, Rob.
No, language didn't exist amongst Nephites and Lamanites.
So then why are you So title pages didn't exist whenever they had books back then, but language also didn't exist. Am I getting this right?
I don't think you're understanding me, and you're kind of making light of...
in the books that didn't exist because they didn't have languages, they didn't have title pages in those, which means it can't be real.
Joseph is claiming that Moroni wrote a title page in 421 AD. That's an anachronism. Because nobody was doing title pages back then. It would be another 1,000 years before humans started to put a title page at the beginning of their documents.
Sure. That's fine.
Let me ask you, what if Moroni had put a bibliography, footnotes, and his email address? Like, would that not be an anachronism? Say you go to 2nd Nephi, you'll see a summary that says Lehi takes his family into the wilderness, they build a boat, Laban rebels, they make it to America, da-da-da-da. That is part of the original Book of Mormon translation. You can see it on the printer's manuscript, okay? Now, the phenomenon of laying down heads of like a bullet point sketch outline of what is to come, this is a modern phenomenon. And it was part of Methodist sermon.
Here's what I'm going to ask you. Okay,
yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
We're talking about a culture pre-Columbus America. We're talking about a group through LIDAR, we've discovered that there were population centers that could have carried up to 15 million people with highways that cross in between for more population centers that could have carried tens of millions of people. Okay, so this is the group of people we're talking about, and we do know that from LIDAR. You'd agree?
Right.
Okay.
Well,
good.
I mean, we know that civilizations existed. I mean, they weren't Nephite cities, but keep going.
That's fine. I'm just saying, defining Nephite, Lamanite, however you want. I don't really care. I'm saying if they would have cohabitated with these people, this is the culture that we're referring to. Collaborative, tribal, whatever you want to call it. These people existed. They have population centers of tens of millions of people. and they have highway systems, tens of millions of people there, and they have all this different stuff. And you think it's plausible, or it's more than likely that they didn't have language and that they didn't have literature? This civilization was the size of Rome.
All you got to do is show me one instance of these LiDAR cities and their written language, and I will gladly accept it.
So I don't have to do that, and I'll explain why logically. No, I'll explain why. I'd actually be happy to explain why. So, there is over 200 anachronisms that have been historically used as arguments against the Book of Mormon, and I'm referring to Matt Roper's presentation, okay? Are you familiar with Matt Roper?
I sure am.
Okay, good. So this is Matt Roper's list of anachronisms in the Book of Mormon, okay?
Right.
I'll just read you the first 5 of his list, okay? Fortifications, no warfare, no wars of conquest, military costumes, armor, swords, steel swords, daggers, axes, etc. Guess what? We found all of those. And that list originally was over 200 long. Guess how many are left?
Do
you know how many are left?
I don't know.
38.
Okay, let me. Okay.
38. The rest of them have been absolutely shut down with evidence.
Those are just the physical anachronisms. And I was having a discussion a minute of you of anachronisms that are not plants, animals, technology. I was talking about like things like title pages, chapter summaries.
Right. Okay. So let me ask your opinion. I just want to ask your opinion. And of course, I don't have the archaeology in front of me to dictate whether or not this is true or false. Do you believe that a civilization could become the size of freaking Rome? Like the same size as Rome, population centers the size of Rome, highways with the same like technological advancement as Rome on the other side of the sea. Do you think that they wouldn't have had an ability to write? Are you serious?
The burden of proof is on you, sir, not me, because
I'm not giving you a burden of proof. I'm asking you logically, Rob. Do you believe that to be true?
Actually, I believe we have had numerous civilizations in the history of this earth that did not have a written language.
So even though we found hieroglyphs in America predating Columbus,
where? Name one.
Sure, I would be ecstatic to do that for you.
Rob, to answer your questions, right? You think that title page has to be invented in order for title page to exist?
Well, what if we just took out the word title page and we put email address? Go ahead, make your argument. Use the word email address, please.
No, because those are two different things, right?
Okay. How about table of contents?
You're not answering me, right?
All right, go ahead. I'll ask you a question. I'll answer
your argument, because the title page did not exist at the time. So you're telling me that title page has to be invented in order for it to be accurate. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think you and I, as rational men, know that title pages started in the 1400s. I think we all can agree to that.
No, we can't. What? Are you serious?
How about the writing technique of... See, here's my thing, guys. You get excited about something like, hey, it looks like there's chiasmus in the Book of Mormon, but when you see a modern phenomenon like laying down of heads, you don't want to talk about it.
No, I'm with you. I actually like your train of thought. I appreciate what you brought in. But title page, right? According to you, who invented title page?
I think it was the Pope was the first one to put a title page on one of his edicts or decrees or something like that. I made a TikTok video about this.
Uh-huh. So when people write each other's back in the day, and they dated something in the front, right? So according to you, title page has to be invented by someone for its existence. Like, I just want to know, because this is fascinating the way you think, brother.
Gentlemen, here's the thing. If we just went and Wikipedia title page, tell us the history of title pages, you gentlemen would have to argue with Wikipedia and write in and say, actually, no, a dude named Moroni in America, 400 AD, was the first one to make a title page.
Well, you just learned that Mormon was the first one to invent the title page. Congratulations, brother.
and Alexander, you talked about a civilization as big as Rome. Think of this. The Roman civilization is as big as what the Nephite civilization claims to be. And the Roman civilization had coinage, and we find their coins everywhere across Europe. How many Nephite coins have we found?
How long have we been on this land?
Nephite swords? Nephite helmets?
First of all, we have found swords and helmets. However,
No.
how long have we been on this land? Rob,
Steel swords.
how much of the LiDAR scans that we've detected, how much have we discovered of in America?
This is an argument from absence.
No, an absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Other way around.
Okay. Can I have a turn to put you up against the ropes and let you defend something?
Sure.
Okay. Doctrine and Covenants, section 137. Have you read it? This is where
Yes.
Alvin sees the
Hold on.
brothers, Alvin in heaven.
Yes.
Have you seen the original Revelation?
No.
It's in the Joseph Smith Papers Project. I invite you to look at it. And you'll notice something interesting.
Okay.
If you look at the published Doctrine and Covenants 137, you'll see where it ends, like what are the last phrases in it, and then go ahead and try to find those phrases in the Joseph Smith Papers.
I want to point out to the audience real quick. I'll follow your train of thought. That's fine. However, I want to point out that not a single one of my things I brought up was answered.
I will try to do better at directly answering your questions.
Okay. So, when are you going to do that?
Okay, I'll start. Let me go to the last one. Yes, I think it's possible that a civilization of 2 million people buried in the jungle could have had a written language. Is that a proper
No,
answer?
that wasn't my last one. That was in response to you. My last one was about the evidence in Moses chapter 6 that was corroborated with the Dead Sea Scrolls. I'm yet to hear anything about that yet.
Okay, so I really don't know all the details, but I'm willing to give you a credit like this was a win for Joseph. There may have been some Jewish midrash that had this information that Joseph could have accessed, or earlier copies of the Book of Enoch. I don't know, but I'm willing to concede this one.
This wasn't discovered.
I'll DM you some stuff that I found that helped me resolve the Book of Moses stuff. But like I said, I'm conceding this point to you at this time.
Cool. We got a concession.
Yeah.
Very fun. And now your next
So
two is DNC 137. Let's go there.
Yeah. What do you notice about the DNC revelation in the Joseph Smith Papers compared to what you see on the church's scriptures? And I think the quickest way to get there would be like find the last verse in DNC 137 in the scriptures, and then find that verse in the original revelation. And I can be patient and wait, or I can just tell you what I'm hoping you're going to see.
Yeah, you just tell me. Hold on. Or go ahead and tell me.
The revelation is twice as long as DNC 137. They cut the second half out and did not publish it. And when you read the latter part of the revelation, it becomes pretty obvious why they did not include it in the scriptures. At least 4 false prophecies in there.
Okay. Such as?
Such as William McClellan healing a crippled boy in the South, Brigham Young teaching the natives in their own language, seeing all the apostles in the celestial kingdom, even though half of them would apostatize. These things never happened.
Okay.
And the part that President Kimball did choose to include when he added DNC 137 in the 1970s, as the church was getting their genealogical family history building up, and this kind of fell along that theme because it talked about Alvin, Joseph's brother who died, that he was concerned about. there's a problem in Joseph's revelation. He looks into heaven. He sees Alvin. He sees his father, Joseph Smith Sr.
Okay.
This chipped away at my trust in the standard works that the church sold me because they don't align with Joseph's original revelation.
Okay.
And it seems like a deliberate effort to withhold from members' eyes false prophecies.
All right.
And we could do the same thing at Doctrine and Covenants section 7, which is even more interesting to me. But I will just be quiet if you have any comments or defenses of what you're seeing here.
I'm going to have to read a little bit. If you want to explain... Oh, actually, let me read first, so we can do one thing at a time.
Sure.
So it stated that the extraction was precisely to focus specifically on the doctrine of the salvation of the dead, which is why section 137 was added to the canon alongside 138, which was Joseph Fielding Smith's vision of the spirit world.
So
and they're saying it's less central to the specific theological purpose of it.
Right. So it's basically explaining what was President Kimball's intention when he added a section to the Doctrine and Covenants, and it makes sense. I don't have a problem with that.
So are you have an issue with the removal of the name Michael at the end? Because Michael was removed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Michael was removed, and so was the second half of the vision.
Okay.
And I mean, look, if Joseph looks into heaven, sees a vision, and he says, wow, I see A, B, C, D, E, and F, don't you see a problem when someone just publishes A, B, and C, but omits D, E, and F? And there's glaring problems with D, E, and F.
All scripture has a purpose. And so if something doesn't fit the purpose of why it was revealed, and also I would argue that not all things revealed to prophets are for the church. I'm sure there are certain things that prophets have revealed that are not revealed to the church.
When Joseph Smith had the vision, it wasn't about 1977. It was about Joseph in the 1800s, right? So what was the purpose that God gave him the vision?
What was the purpose?
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that the purpose of D&T 137 is about the doctrine of salvation for the dead and how you're saved in the celestial kingdom. From what I'm reading.
Why couldn't I make an equal argument that the vision that Joseph Smith received, the purpose was about the apostles who were going to be in the celestial kingdom and who were going to perform mighty miracles on this earth during their mortal ministry? Could I not make an equal argument for that, since it does constitute 55% of the vision?
Well, I don't think prophecy is like set in stone necessarily. I think that it literally could be the case that Joseph Smith saw a vision of what the future could have been for these apostles had they not been apostate. And since they did go apostate, why
could you apply that same? Could you apply your same argument to Alvin? Joseph saw that Alvin could have been in heaven, but he didn't end up going to heaven.
Except for he was already dead. No, he was already dead.
But Joseph is seeing him in heaven. Maybe that's just a possibility, not a reality, right?
No.
I mean, after all, the guy hadn't been baptized.
Yeah, he was being shown. He was being shown that Alvin had already accepted the gospel.
Well, how could Alvin be in the celestial kingdom if he hadn't been baptized for the dead yet?
Because all those who accept the gospel and want to continue with covenants will inevitably make it there. It could be the case that Alvin had already accepted it.
Well,
yes.
Inevitably. You said inevitably, but Joseph is seeing him actually there. But what Joseph is seeing about Brigham is false.
Visions are intended to portray either a story or they're intended to portray reality.
So how do you determine that the Alvin part of the vision is reality, but the Brigham part is possibility?
Sure, because he was being shown Alvin in the afterlife, who's already dead, and then he's being shown these men who are not in the afterlife.
But why can't we argue that he was seeing Brigham in the future?
Because the future's not set. We're open theists. We're not closed theists. God doesn't know the future.
What I want you to notice, and can I just like friend to friend? I don't know if we're friends. I'd like to be friends, but sure. Could you honestly? Do you think both that you and I could take an opportunity to address the level of bias in our own minds and our awareness of the bias in our minds? Because I feel like I presented.
I absolutely can agree to that. But the reason for that is, though, Rob, is because there's not. First of all, I find a substantial amount of evidence for Joseph Smith and his divine calling, and for the Book of Mormon, and for all that stuff. And so whenever I'm looking for stuff like this, I'm looking for the path of least resistance that corroborates everything else that I already know to be true. And so my bias comes from the fact that I've already looked inside of the Book of Moses and the Book of Abraham and the Book of Mormon. And I've read these things, and there's certain things which can't be refuted. And so then I go into this with that in mind. And then I say, okay, why might this have been omitted? Why might this have been included or not included? Whatever. And then you just go from there.
That is the John Gee non-scholarly, unscientific approach to examining evidence. I start
Wait. So with science, we don't use what you already know in order to establish more truth?
Do you,
as a framework? You don't know what a framework is?
Yes, you're right. But do you agree with John Gee's methodology when examining the Book of Abraham? Because all of his Egyptologist colleagues don't accept it.
The John Gee framework. I'm going to look at his framework.
John Gee, the biggest LDS apologist for the Book of Abraham, gave a conference, probably a fair conference, and he said, I start with the conclusion that the Book of Abraham is true, and then any evidence I try to fit into that paradigm.
Yeah, that's because our epistemology is different, Rob. My epistemology doesn't come strictly from evidence. The evidence that I find is helpful and it's beautiful. But ultimately, Rob, going off of presuppositionally, if God is real, then God can reveal himself to you.
Can I just throw you out an example just to test your bias? Do you mind if I be just rude just for a second?
Sure, go for it.
You probably believe that your mother is a virtuous woman who's faithful, and that's probably your bias. But if I showed you evidence that she cheated on your dad, would you accept it, or would you just somehow find a way to stay with your original belief?
Are you wanting an honest answer here? I don't know if you're going to accept my answer. If you showed me evidence that my mom was cheating on my father, then I would say she was not being virtuous. Yeah.
Fantastic. I respect that. And I don't think anything bad about your mom.
That's my honest answer.
Okay. Well,
I'm being serious. I tried to actually think about what you asked. I think that I would say, that's not virtuous, Mom. That's a bad thing to do.
Can I speak of my bias? I will acknowledge that right now my bias is obviously leaning towards the Joseph Smith was not a prophet. Let's go find some more false prophecies that he made. I will acknowledge that. But I also acknowledge that I spent 45 years doing exactly what you were doing, which is like, I have the belief that he is a true prophet, and I'm going to find a way to make sense of things that are difficult. But I do believe that I have a little bit more awareness of the bias flowing within me at this time. And I'm not judging me versus you. I'm just saying I've been on both sides.
Yeah,
that's all.
It's fine. So, okay. I like to think that I'm looking at this not biased, but I think that there's, like I said, so here's what it comes down to. There is certain things within this that you just cannot deny. Now, the stuff that you're bringing up would be a test of moral character for Joseph Smith or for whomever we're looking at in church history. Joseph Smith lied about this, or he omitted this information when he shouldn't have, which you have done in this conversation. So you're guilty by your own standard. But you're looking at this stuff and saying, well, he was either he made a mistake by this, or he was wrong or lied about this. That's fine. You can say he's a bad person for doing something like that. However, you can't look at the evidence that I've provided and say that's just simply not true. The evidence I provided to you is...
Here's the bigger problem, Alexander. Here's the bigger problem with Rob. Rob is actually just playing gotcha. He is a liar and he's dishonest. This entire thing, this entire shtick is just gotcha. He is taking obscure information that most Latter-day Saints do not know, and he is presenting it without providing any kind of context. And he's doing so in the hopes that younger people who are not familiar with the issues won't know anything, so he's only presenting half of the argument to you, and he's expecting you to provide the other half. Now, Rob, if he's honest, could provide the other half of the argument, for example, in section 137, but he doesn't. He could provide the other half of the argument for anything that he provides, but he doesn't, because all he wants to do is play gotcha. If you were to actually sit and quiz Rob on the actual information that he's presenting, he should be able to provide both sides of the argument and provide them as though he is arguing on their behalf, but he doesn't. All he's doing is saying, here's the half, here's the negative side, here's the opposition argument. I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to ask you, Alexander, on a live to produce it. You've not heard this issue. You may not be aware of it. But I am 45 years old or whatever the hell he is, and I'm going to say, well, gotcha. And by the way, are you really thinking it through? And I'm going to misquote John Gee and others, and I'm just going to expect you to accept my misquoting because I'm a disingenuous, dishonest hack, which is what Rob is. All of his videos
Alexander,
are that way. Rob,
Alexander, can I sincerely ask a question of you?
The actual other half of any of these arguments, because if he could, this is lying in its worst form, because he is literally only providing half of the position. And
Rob,
Alexander, can I ask you a question, sir? Alexander, I seriously want to ask you to consider whether or not you want to have people on your live that engage in name calling and in judging people,
now he's doing tone policing, which is the second thing he does.
That you know
now he's doing that. Oh, my feelings are hurt.
Of your guests
I'm a real person. Live. I'm sincere. You know what, Alexander? Go watch his videos on his TikTok channel and see how honest of an actor he is. Because he is absolutely a hack. He presents half of the information. He doesn't present
Alexander.
Other arguments.
I know you're here to promote.
Ever.
I feel like
Alexander.
I have
I know you're here to promote the LDS Church.
Sorry,
Alexander. I know you're here to promote the LDS Church, and I applaud you for that. But I want to ask you sincerely.
See, and this is
allowing people to come up with this kind.
We're not going to include it. What is the actual reason?
I don't know that they gave a reason.
What is the actual right? You have never investigated the other half of the question sincerely. You can't even provide it. Do you honestly think that the LDS Church's position is, well, this is a false prophecy, so we're going to not put that in?
Alexander,
do you think that is their official position? Because
Alexander, you're going to allow
Rob, what is the reason, Rob? What is the reason that they shortened the revelation? Is it even a revelation? Who recorded it? What was the factors determining whether or not to include 137 and 138? See, Rob can't give you any of that information.
Are you able to answer these questions?
Every time you need to hold him to those questions. I don't have time to be on this very much longer, but that's the problem. if he actually is a good faith actor, you shouldn't have to provide the church's position. Rob should know it, and he should be able to argue it as though he believes it. He should be able to honestly engage with it rather than saying people like John Gee are hacks, because he should be able to provide the John Gee's best argument, but he's not. He's here to destroy faith and testimony because he's a hack. Anyways, I've got to
Rob,
go.
you're on mute, sir. I'm curious, are you able to answer Travis's questions? You're on mute, Rob. You got to unmute. I sent you an invite to do so.
Okay. Alexander, I consider you to be a gentleman, and I've enjoyed talking to you, but I will not tolerate name calling, and I suggest that you not tolerate it either, because you are not helping the cause of the church by supporting that kind of unchristlike.
I get it.
Really,
I get it.
Remember what the
Here's the
scriptures
thing.
say. If you have not charity, you're nothing. We have to become charitable humans.
Right. I know, Rob. I get that. I'm curious though, and I'm my own person, and I'm not gonna tell Travis how to speak or if he's wrong or right or whatever. I'm wondering, can you answer his questions that he posed about your positions on the church and about like DNC 137 and all that? Can you argue if you?
Okay.
I agree with him when he says if a good apologist or a good intellectual individual will be able to argue both sides of the story. Are you able to do that?
I've got some bad reception. I am not sneaking away from this argument. All I'm saying is that none of us know why they added the first part of the DNC 137. None of us know why they didn't include the second half. And it's up to us to examine the evidence and find out how much credibility and trust we can have in these documents.
Okay. So do you think that the church has given a reason for DNC 137?
Provide the other position, and he can't, because he actually hasn't researched these issues. He is looking for negative arguments against things. And
Man,
with
I
respect
can't
to
hear you.
people
I'm
in the
sorry.
comments,
If you
for
can hear me,
example,
great, because I can't hear anything you're saying. I'm in a known bad cell phone zone.
That I don't provide the other side.
Maybe I should just step down. You talk to
and I know
somebody
the
with
other
decent
side of the
signal.
arguments that I make. And Rob is a hack. And he doesn't know because he doesn't investigate it. He's here to give half of the story
I guess
in order to dissuade people. And
my
attack
advice
faith.
to you,
and if he thinks that
Alexander,
tone
because I've been
if
on,
he thinks that tone, look,
I have
because
been in
here's the
church
thing,
videos.
Alexander,
I have promoted the church.
Substantive arguments require actual context and actually providing both positions. If you read the scholarly articles that are produced by church and LDS scholars, you will see that they actually provide both the faithful position, and John Gee actually also produces the material that goes against his positions because he's not a hack. They actually can argue on both sides of the question, and that's how scholars and academics produce material. Whereas Rob is just here to say, here's half the story, can you tell me the other half? Oh, that's right, you can't? Gotcha. And if he thinks that is how to promote faith and that my tone is whatever, I don't care. I really couldn't care less about Rob and his, that's not the right tone, and I don't like being called a hack, even though that's what I am. Anyways, I've got to go.
Wow. What a live, everyone. Wow. In response to Rob, I think ultimately, let me phrase my words carefully. I think Travis has a point when he says argue both sides of the story, and not just the negative side. And that's what I asked you earlier. Can you give an explanation or can you explain some of the positive evidence rather than just the negative tropes? And I think a lot of your time, Rob, has been dedicated and spent in opposition to fighting this, but not for any like substantive reason. I think that it's really just been, you made up your mind whenever your shelf broke, and since then you've made it your purpose and your life, not your life goal, but a huge portion of your time and energy gets dedicated to just simply disproving a religion or this faith tradition. And if I'm being honest, Rob, I think that in our church we refer to that as a sheep or a wolf in sheep's clothing, because your ultimate intention, your ultimate goal is to come on here and ask questions that you apparently don't even know the actual church response to and sway us away from these beliefs. But when Travis asks you, do you know the answer to these questions that you're posing? You didn't, or you had bad Wi-Fi and you weren't able to present them. I don't know which one. But they're presented as this big issue, when in reality, whenever Travis, like, it seems as if whenever we have someone more informed, these issues are not as large, if that makes sense. So I won't say Travis has a perfect approach. Travis is a man. But it seems that these questions that you're posing have answers to them. And I will say it seems a bit wolf in sheep's clothing-ish to me whenever, even in the beginning of this live, you intentionally neglected to inform me about the clause in DNC 132. I had to bring that up myself whenever you were talking about DNC 132. You talked about how you need the consent, but you forgot to bring up the clause which specifically neglects or exempts that consent from being necessary. I think that's odd. I think that there's something to that, and I shouldn't really look over that. So I'm not going to say that you're like a bad person. You don't give me the impression of being a bad person, but I don't like tone policing. And I think Travis has done a lot of good, like a lot of good. Ask if you think Travis has done a lot of good, give me like a W in the chat for Travis. Can I get some W's in the chat for Travis? Because I think he's a W person. Am I right? Am I right or am I wrong? Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. Travis has done so much good for everyone on this TikTok. I mean, like, bro, I mean, look at that. You see that? Travis is a big W. And so the name calling, if you have an issue with name calling, I want to know, why is the names he's calling you wrong? You know what I'm saying? He's calling you a hack and he's calling you dishonest. But you were, objectively, you gave me a concession. You said that you were being dishonest to me. And Rob, I don't have any issue with you. Like, personally, you're a fine person from what I know. But maybe we should just set up a debate with you and Travis. Who would be interested in watching that? Anyone interested in, if Travis was down, of course, who would be interested in watching like an actual moderated debate with Travis and Rob? Would anyone be interested in that? Yeah, and he did say, Dave, good point. He said to fight fire with fire. I don't know if Travis would agree to that or not. I would absolutely love to watch that. And obviously it would have to be moderated, I'm sure, otherwise it would get out of hand. No one's some people are interested, some people aren't, huh? Yeah. Interesting. Well, guys, what a live, man. We had a good run there with Rob. I will say there were some clips. I will go through this live stream and I will take some of the clips. And L, real quick before I forget, I know that you record everything. Can I give you moderator access? And then after this is over, you can post the entire thing if you want. I gave you mod access. So you have mod access, L. If you want to post this on your YouTube channel, anyone who wants to use this, you're able to use it. L will post it on your YouTube channel. Wow. Wow. What a fun live, guys. So now I don't even know if I want to follow that up with anything, because what a classic ending that was, if we were to end it right there.